What is up, guys? Welcome to the podcast. As always, this is Entertain This.
Entertain this. I almost felt like I didn't need to do it because you kind of did it.
I'm sorry. I just got so
You're
hyped
trespassing on my territory.
looking at this new system that we have set up that I just
Yeah.
kind of went for it. I'm
It's
sorry.
okay.
As always, I'm Alex.
I'm Michael.
And I'm Nick.
And as you guys may have noticed, something's off about us right now. Are we here right now? Are we present in the moment? Guys, we're doing a visual component to the podcast now, and maybe that's not going to hit for some of you who are regular listeners of our podcast. But we have taken to a visual way of doing things, and it's working out pretty nicely for us at this moment in time specifically. We'll see how that goes moving forward. I can hear a lot of you asking right now, boys, why switch things up now on episode 53 of the pod? Is it 53? 54? 53 of the podcast. Thank you, Nick. And the answer is exciting news. Drum roll, please. Thank you, boys. We are officially signed to a network.
Wow.
I know. As you guys probably would have seen coming into this visual recording, we have signed with the Scene Snobs Network, and we'll get more into exactly what that means reaching the end of the program today. But one thing that clearly indicates is that now we are taking a visual platform as well as an audio-based platform. And our episodes will now be streaming on the Scene Snobs Network every Friday night, the same day that we release the podcast. So you'll still get the podcast released to you. In fact, if you guys are regular listeners to the podcast, you will have first access to the episode this week. They'll still upload at 11:30 a.m. on all streaming platforms first, and then that night they will go live on the stream. So keep a look on our social medias for exactly what time that's going to be happening at. We're still kind of tying up loose ends, but that's all the banter I wish to speak of today.
Wow.
For now, let's were you impressed by that? Did you like that?
Yeah, it was a lot of banter.
Thank you.
I wouldn't call it banter.
No, it was just me. It was just me rambling.
We were just housekeeping.
The rambling's over. The housekeeping's done. And I'm going to toss it over to my constituent, Nick, and he's going to take over. It's his episode. Hey,
that's me.
Hey, that's you.
Wow. Yeah. It's hard to believe it's been an entire year since our first episode was released.
Yeah.
And well, thanks for coming on this ride with me, guys. I never thought I'd be doing this for this long.
Doing podcasting?
Doing anything for a year or longer.
How long have you been dating your girlfriend?
We'll get into that later.
I don't think we will, is the thing. I think that was a deflect, is what that was.
What's commitment? I'm not sure. But as you might recall, I was the one who started our humble little podcast.
I'm sorry? Time out.
Whoa. Whoa.
Okay, here's something that we need to realize as a group right now. I wish we would have talked about this beforehand, but I'm going to bring it up now so everyone huddle in. Guys, there are going to be a lot of people who are going to be watching us for the first time, and they're watching right now. They're seeing this happen. they don't know who we are, what we've done. They have not listened to the last 50 episodes. We are reaching a new audience now, and I'm really nervous about it. We really should make claims that we can back up.
All I'm saying
break.
Is that
Sorry, go ahead.
I did the first episode. That's all I'm saying.
That's
okay?
true.
Oh, you did the first episode.
You did. You were the host of the first episode because you had the best concept out of the three of us.
Yeah, I wouldn't call it the best, but anyway,
it was the best.
It was by the sweat of my brow that I breathed life into our audio medium.
That's
with some help from some great friends here.
Man, you're just really pumping yourself up right now.
But today, I'd like to tell you a story. At base level, it's a story of a divorced dad who lost custody rights and wants to see his kid again. But beyond that, it's a story about forgiveness, revenge, loss, and life. And it's really not all about the destination of getting to see your daughter again, but it's the journey you take to get there. Much like this podcast, it's not about making 52 hours of content just to say we did it, but rather about the good times and discussions that we have along the way. So along our story, I'd like to make some brief stops to talk about ideologies, characters, legacies, and contrasts along the way. So if it's all right with you boys, I'd like to hop in a bathysphere and dive below the surface to revisit the failed utopian city of Rapture once again. So now, would you kindly entertain this deep dive into a video game known as Bioshock 2?
Nice.
We're back. We're back, boys. We're back. This feels so, Nick, you really did a great job kind of, if there were a bow to tie on our podcast, or at least the first year of our podcast, it's really cool that, because I remember that very first episode, me being like, well, in Bioshock 2, and you're like, we're not talking about Bioshock 2, we're talking about Bioshock 1 specifically. And I was like, why does he keep doing that? But now I see you were planning all along to do Bioshock 2 this year, and then possibly Bioshock 3 next year, and then that'll be it for the podcast. We'll be done.
Yeah,
because we'll be out of Bioshocks.
Well, to be fair, you can never truly be done with Bioshock Infinite
because it's infinite.
Yep.
That's funny.
In case you guys weren't picking up on this, we're also a comedy podcast.
We try.
Yeah, if you want to call us that.
Not very hard. We don't.
Ooh, jokes. Anyways, this game serves as a antithesis to Bioshock 1. So if you could maybe bring us up to speed on what happened in that last title, the last episode a year ago on Bioshock 1.
Ooh, I can maybe try this. It's going to be interesting because I never actually played it.
Oh, God. Okay,
Michael, you didn't entertain this?
No,
do it anyway, Michael.
I have it downloaded in my Steam library and I just never played it.
Shaking my head.
Okay, so you play as a guy. You play as a guy whose name escapes me, but I remember he has chain tattoos on his wrists.
Yep.
He crash lands into the ocean and finds safe passage on a random island, which takes him down into the wonderful city of Bioshock. There he gets meted by a man whose name also escapes me, but keeps saying things like, with an Irish accent, like, would you kindly, would you kindly, would you kindly? Eventually leading up to the moment where you meet the founder of Rapture, the city in Bioshock, whose name is
Andrew Ryan.
Yep. And you kill him because the guy that you met before said, would you kindly kill this son of a bitch, or something along those lines.
That's right.
You kill him. Well, he tells you to kill him. Andrew Ryan tells you, the player, to kill him as well.
To prove a point.
You do. And upon doing that, you realize, wow, if someone tells me, would you kindly do this thing, I have to do this thing. So then he breaks free of that. I don't remember how, but then he goes and takes on the original man who was like doing this stuff to you and making you do all this stuff.
Nice.
And
Nice catch.
Are we avoiding cussing now? Is that a part of our brand deal? I don't think it is. I think we're good. If we're not allowed to cuss, let us know after you listen to this. Thanks.
Yeah.
But Michael paused again. No, we're good.
Yeah, but then you go. Sorry, no, my brain just malfunctioned for a second.
Okay,
He's
great.
buffering. Give him a minute.
So then you go and you kill this guy, and I believe this guy's name is Atlas. You go and you kill him, and you free yourself from these bonds, and now that is the end of Bioshock 1.
Okay, that was pretty good. That was the plot arc of Bioshock 1. Alex, did you have anything more to offer, or should I just fill in the gaps here?
Okay, let me try to take a dive at this, if you would. Thank you.
It's underwater.
So it starts off, you go to this lighthouse, right? Does this one start with a plane crash?
Plane crash, yep.
Plane crash, you end up in an ocean, you swim for a lighthouse. Once you go in the lighthouse, you find out it's actually a secret underground elevator that takes you into Rapture. While in Rapture, you discover a couple of different beasts living upon the wreckage of what used to be this underwater escape from capitalistic society. You find there are a bunch of like addicts who are addicted to this special kind of ejector that gives you superpowers called Vigor. Adam, that's it. Yep. Adam. All of these like addicted people who are addicted to Adam are like constantly trying to kill you, and you have to fight them off. And then there are big daddies, which are these giant mech people who are kind of
angry drill men,
yeah. And they protect the little sisters, which are the like tiny little girls who later you find out are the creators of Adam. You figure this out because either you can harvest them and obtain all of their like magic essence, and that's one way to level up, or you can save them to maybe have a payoff in the end that is more on the chaotic good side. I don't think you could be lawful good in this game.
It's good or evil, basically.
Yeah. And in getting all these like powers, you can do different things like
Shoot
one
fire
makes
out of your hands,
like a bunch
electric,
of it's basically
telekinesis.
like getting spells is kind of what it's like.
Sure, if you want to take that route.
That's kind of the little details that I think Michael missed. The rest is kind of overarching plot of what happens with all of those things happening as you explore this underwater city of Rapture.
Yeah, that's great. We had a joke in the first episode of Andrew Ryan, the city's founder, getting pissed off at FDR for the New Deal. He's like, you know what? I'm just going to build an underwater city, and we're going to have total free market capitalism down there, and it's going to be great.
Yeah,
and of course he does.
So one of the things when people ask me like, well, what's your podcast about? I'm like, well, let's put it this way. One time we talked about Bioshock, the game, but instead of doing like a review of it or talking about like the creation of it, we talked about how it's possible that George W. Bush and the oil industry, as well as FDR and the New Deal, may have impacted the surrounding creation of Bioshock, and how the political stance of the United States at the time of creating Bioshock was the reason why it ended up being so good. And people are like, what?
It could be, yeah. I mean,
like, yeah, that's
kind
of what we vibe on, is that under the surface stuff.
Yeah, and nice pun. But we discussed the concept of free will, right? And you don't have any free will in the game.
Yeah, that was one of the first existential questions you asked us was, hey, what's free will? And we're like, bro, this is episode 1 of the podcast.
We're 10 minutes into this thing.
It's this episode's not going to be an exception to that rule. Unfortunately, I don't know if we'll get existential, but we'll see what your guys.
We've been doing this for a year, man. We are used to you asking us these big questions now.
Okay. I don't know if I have one central question. I do have a thesis.
Why do you think the both of us brought alcohol to this one?
It's because we're ready for you. Yeah. We're ready for you, Nick.
Okay. But these games, both Bioshock 1 and 2, are packed to the brim with meaning. And you might not pick up on it as a high schooler playing it for the first time in was it 2010? I think this game came out. But
sounds about right.
Yeah. This game serves as a reversal in comparison to the first. The first game serves as a counterpoint to the second game's ideologies. So it's collectivism versus objectivism is the primary contrast at play here. And we'll get into defining those terms later on. But what this game really tries to do at a base level is to take these two ideologies, blow them up, blow them so out of proportion in ways that people following them are just completely rigid in their decision making, and they do not budge based on the circumstances no matter how dire. It's literally the purest of ideologues, these people are. And in this time of political divisiveness, maybe it serves as a cautionary tale to both sides. The people in this game are using their ideologies as a means to an end. So the first thing I kind of want to discuss here is the issue of weaponizing the bond of a family, like the same way an explosive can weaponize chemical bonds. Like, how many times have you heard, we're one big family at this company? But in the end, does it really matter who you call mom and dad? Of course not. Whoever you call your family is fine with me.
Michael, this is topical because of the job that you just secured.
Yeah.
We're one big family.
I don't think it's something we're able to talk about, but I do think that you're going to be jumping in this, like, we're a family business. And then you jump on social media and everyone's like,
yeah, quite possibly. I mean, we'll see.
That's the way it's going to be.
That's every company, quite honestly.
Yeah.
And maybe it's an ideology too. I don't know. We'll get to it. Second issue here that I'd like to discuss in depth, if we could. That's another pun. It's called thought ghosts. What I like to call thought ghosts.
We're a comedy podcast, so just you gotta really listen out for those diamonds in the rough, because there's a lot of rough and not a lot of diamonds.
There's legacies of ideologies that we are all living with currently. No matter who you are, where you are, there's certain things that exist from a different time period that are still around today. Every government and societal way of thinking has a legacy. It still stands long after they're fallen. I mean, look at the USSR. Soviet bloc countries are still culturally close to Russia. Long after the USSR fell, there's people living there that can still remember it in their thoughts. The ghosts of the past live on in their memories. So take it a step further and say that our parents decisions are embedded within our genetic code. I know that sounds a little weird, but let me explain. So there's a study on mice where they exposed the male mice to the smell of like sweet almonds or something like that, and then zapped their little feet. So then they went on to mate and have little babies, and these babies were exposed to that same smell and immediately got stressed as if they were expecting a shock. That's pretty wild, right? That's thought to
Pretty
be that
wild.
there's
Yeah.
a mechanism at play in humans too, but it's hard to suss out like the nurture versus nature developmental psychology from this. But even long after we're gone, perhaps a fragment of our genes will go and walk on Mars. I mean, who knows? So even after this great Rapture experiment was over, you're still left with the aftermath. A city is not just going to poof out of existence one day. It's kind of like poop, you know. It
Okay.
helps you excrete waste, but now that it's out of your body, what do you do with it? Do you flush it down the toilet? Like it was a big issue in early human societies.
So, okay, so let's back up before we talk about poop.
Excrement, if you will.
Because people who are just tuning in, because we are gaining a kind of new audience from joining this network, they maybe haven't listened to the first episode,
That's
uh,
fine.
which kind of went over what Rapture was. So
Yeah.
let's just, if you could, just give us like a very quick rundown of like, this is Rapture. Like
Yeah.
this is
So
what Rapture was supposed to be.
Rapture is the game's creator was reading a book by the name of Atlas Shrugged by an author called Ayn Rand, and within this book, she kind of outlines the pillars of an ideology called objectivism. And what objectivism is this way of looking at the world that is objective, kind of like the name suggests. But one of the pillars of that is free market capitalism. So that's why it's not a philosophy and it's an ideology. See, there's a difference. But um, basically, what Rapture is a response to the Cold War. The United States post 1945. We have all these New Deal programs. The government has taken control of a lot of industries for the sake of war and production and like that. But then after that, you have the prospect of nuclear war, which is mutually assured destruction and everything's going to blow up and maybe there won't be a tomorrow. So like Andrew Ryan's reaction to all that was like, I need to get away from this. I need to preserve myself. And the government's taking too much of my stuff, man. He moves out and he's like, I'm going to make Rapture. There's not going to be any taxes. There's not going to be any laws. It's going to be completely pure free market capitalism. This, of course, goes haywire because, like I said before, he's being a rigid ideologue. And he's not bending based on, circumstances that arise. So that's Rapture in a nutshell. Pretty much.
Yes. So now let's talk about poop.
Poop. Go ahead.
Okay. So your initial question was like, what do we do with Rapture now that it's expelled from our human bodies?
What do you do with the poopy ideologies of yesterday?
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, I think if we keep following that metaphor down the drain, we'll like once we've kind of let go of God, why are we talking about poop? Once we kind of let go of the excrement, we don't think about it anymore. And that's what we want, is for it to disappear down the pipe and for us to never have to think about it again
But it
until
doesn't
we have
work
to
like
get rid
that.
of another one. It does work like that on a small scale, but on the
Yes.
larger scale, it does not.
Yeah.
But those problems aren't for the people, according to us. It's for the higher ups to figure out, the people in charge of the society.
Yeah. I mean, you can't just stop an entire societal group of people from thinking a certain way.
Right.
And even if you convince the majority, there's always holdouts. So let's do another thought experiment. Let's say you want everyone to stop saying the word moist. I don't like the sound of it. I don't want people to say moist anymore.
Yeah. In saying that, you're going to get more people saying it.
I know. You can get posters on street corners, everything, social media push, all that. You get politicians to pass laws maybe against saying moist so that it's illegal. But you can't stop everyone every time. So much of what we're experiencing today is because of yesterday. And this maybe is an argument like why kids should study history. I don't know, but Michael knows this more than anyone. Underneath every CSS or JavaScript, there is a few ugly lines of assembly code that's running in the background. Under that is machine code, which was decided upon in the 50s or earlier, depending on who you ask. Sure, you could reprogram everything, but why? If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Even the computers we use today to launch nukes are probably still run on BASIC.
Yeah, could be.
Could be.
Michael's like, well, I wrote the program, and I'm pretty sure I wrote it in JavaScript. So
No.
But as you might recall in my little intro bit there, I said something about sweat on my brow or something like that. That's directly from Andrew Ryan, the city's founder, who says a man is entitled to the sweat of his brow. Right in the first little bit there,
having flashbacks to episode 1 in Michael's kitchen with all of the echoes.
Oh boy, how far we've come.
Yes.
It's been a year.
But I've kind of hit on this before, but there's a philosophical movement in the United States and abroad, I think, after World War II in particular. After 1945, we enter into this period called postmodern, the postmodernist period.
Mm-hmm.
And at its heart, it's a general distrust of the grand theories and ideologies, as well as a problematic relationship with any notion of quote unquote art. It's a time when people are questioning the structures they belong to, and really any collection of power. So, what's the point of belonging to a nation if they're just going to nuke each other? And does it really matter if we could all be killed in a nuclear firestorm tomorrow? When you hear those kind of things, you're probably thinking, yeah, I could see why somebody could kind of want to get away from it all. Postmodernism is kind of this change in the way we view one another. While before 1945, there was a faith that people were generally good beings. And after World War II, we kind of start to question that. Maybe humans are generally bad. Who knows? So if you'd allow me to, I'd like to do a little symbolism here. To remedy humans' nature, people have turned to the Bible or religions to keep themselves, good. And as you'll see, a lot of this game's symbolism is taken directly from the good book itself. I don't know why. Maybe there's this grand scheme that the game's initial art director was going for here, but it's a city at the bottom of the ocean where goodness and laws are completely thrown away. Even the Bible is like completely outlawed down there. But it isn't ironic, don't you think?
Don't you think?
The sweat of your brow is actually from the Bible. Genesis 3:19 says, by the sweat of your brow you will eat the food until you return to the ground, since from it you were taken. From dust you are, and to dust you will return. This is what God said to Adam after he ate the forbidden fruit. He's like, hey, bro, remember all of that when you had in my garden? You blew it. Go find your own shit now.
There's a lot of I guess equals between this idea of God banning Adam out of Eden and being like, all right, now you have to provide for yourself, and Adam being like, all right, I'm going to build my own thing. To Andrew Ryan and FDR basically being like, all right, if you don't like it, then get out. And Andrew being like, all right, I'm going to build my own thing. It's kind of like a like that point in our lives that we all reach where we're like living in our parents' house and we're like, all right, I'm going to go out and I'm going to do my own thing now. Like, it's going to suck, but I'm going to build my own life away from the structure that has been given to me. And it all is kind of this Garden of Eden escapism that is constantly threaded through this narrative.
Yeah. Even Rapture itself is a biblical meaning too. It's the event in which the faithful are taken to heaven during the second coming of Jesus. It's a book of Revelation. It gets really weird.
If you believe in these major capitalist ideas so much, you'll be raptured to rapture.
Yeah, that's one of the core tenets. People that are in Rapture now are given an engraved invitation from Andrew Ryan himself. They're like, hey, why don't you come on down here? I seen you being a good capitalist boy. I seen you pulling those business moves. Why don't you come on over here? I won't have to pay any taxes, huh? Yeah,
also, it's a stereotype, but businessmen do so many drugs.
Oh,
just it's not surprising that in the frame of this game,
it's all about drug use.
Right. It's hey, come down here, come have fun, no rules, do as many drugs as you like, but pay for them, but do as many as you want.
I'm just picturing Andrew Ryan's hey, you doctor, you've got an ethically questionable study going on those children there. I got the place for you.
Come here, little boy. Come on over.
Like, really would joke about it, but that's what Rapture is all about. It's like
Right.
ethics don't matter down here. Do whatever you want. You making a buck?
Just
That's cool with me.
Just make that bread.
Make that bread.
Make that bread. So how did Andrew Ryan profit off of all this? We're still talking about Bioshock 2, by the way. Just it happens in Rapture as well.
Yeah, it's all
because
set in the same
there
thing.
are no taxes, but I guess driving the addiction to this drug that he's providing is kind of it.
Yeah, Andrew Ryan has his own business, but I mean, I don't know. It gets kind of weird because he builds the city, like he builds the entire city, and I guess he charges rent on the buildings and stuff. So maybe that's pulling a
I
little
guess
landlord
so.
thing.
Let's talk for a second about let's go ahead and let's date this podcast.
Okay.
You know, the one thing that you're not supposed to do. We're kind of seeing an equivalent of this kind of idea of basically breaking away and creating your own society.
Okay.
In the news recently, Elon Musk has been thrown into the spotlight after he announced that he wanted to start a city in Texas. Are you guys familiar with this?
Kind of.
No, but I've heard one argument. I've heard them all pretty much.
So here's what this is from entrepreneur.com. I don't know if that is a reliable source, but I'm going to say it anyway. It says the billionaire announced that he is building a new city in Texas to be called Starbase around the rocket launch site of his company, SpaceX, used to causing a stir, which is the exact word, so maybe it isn't that reputable of a source. Used to causing a stir by typing just a few words, Musk post on Twitter that he is creating the city of Starbase, Texas.
Okay.
Doesn't that feel a lot like this? Just a billionaire being like, I'm going to start my own goddamn city. Fuck it. No masks, no laws, no social distancing.
But he has to... I'm sure it has those overtones in it. I'm sure there's nuance, but I mean, if you're in the United States, we're still going to want our tax money, you know?
Right.
Like you're on our land, okay? You still got to pay property tax. You can do whatever you want. This is America after all, but at the end of the day, you know.
Shrug.
Yeah. Atlas shrugs. Ha ha ha. Now, but for crying out loud, the very drug that we're talking about, Adam, that's from the Bible too. Eve is what you use to shoot in your veins to power the powers.
Is it spelled like Adam or like atom?
Adam, like Adam.
Really? Wow.
Yep. So biblical symbolism all around. And then moving out of the Bible, we have the main character you play as, Subject Delta, who is a big daddy. Ooh. He's the big angry drill man. Yeah. Delta is actually... what's up?
Wink.
Wink, wink. Yeah.
I said wink.
So it's the fourth letter of the Greek alphabet. It's kind of shaped like a triangle. I'm sure you've seen it in sororities and fraternities all around in colleges, but it's implying that Delta is the fourth big daddy ever created and the first successful one as far as they're concerned. But it's also used in mathematics to symbolize change. So delta V is meaning change in velocity. So that's kind of interesting, right? And then his daughter, I guess, his little sister would be a better term for that.
Yeah.
Both him and the main antagonist, Sophia Lamb, they both have the surname of Lamb, which could be likened to the Bible where Jesus is referred to as the Lamb of God. I don't know. He's offered up to save us. But that's going to end my symbolism talk for today. So thanks for coming to that. Let's just start with a quote from Sophia Lamb. This is the game's primary antagonist, and this will help frame our discussion of the actual plot itself and serve as the end of the beginning of my little spiel. Did I say that right? Yeah, I think I did. And
don't know.
the note that I'm saying antagonist right here. Okay, I'm not saying bad guy because everyone has their own motives. You can kind of empathize with the bad guy a lot of the times, and that's what makes a good story, if you ask me. But I'd be a fool to call either side good or bad because they're both kind of shitty in the end. So let's start with the quote here. For every choice, there is an echo. With each act, we change the world. One man chose a city free of law and God, but others chose corruption, so the city fell. If the world were reborn in your image, would it be paradise or perdition? And a brief aside here, I had to look up perdition. It essentially means hell or damnation. So,
Fair enough.
so is that kind of getting your gears working in a certain way?
Yes.
Yeah, I think I've got an idea.
Okay.
Let's
all
talk
right.
about the plot of Bioshock 2, because I know in this one you play as a Big Daddy in a way.
Mm-hmm.
That's right. You are a big daddy.
Hmm.
The story takes place 10 years after the fact of the first game.
Okay.
So the first game takes place in never mind. First game takes place in 1960. And Rapture starts to fall in 1959. It's just like on this downward slide. So when you arrive there, it's pretty much gone to hell.
Uh-huh.
This game takes place in 1968 when things are already they were bad and they got even worse, if you can believe
Right.
that. So let's just go to the story.
Okay,
You want to do that?
I might be mistaken, but if I remember, I played the demo for this game back when it was on the Xbox 360.
All right.
If I remember, you start the game as a Big Daddy before the fall of Rapture.
Correct.
And
Yes.
you get an idea of like what Rapture was like before everything went to shit.
Yeah, it was a party.
Yeah, like literally, it like you are a Big Daddy walking through a big party.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And people are just like, "Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Hey, nice.
Yeah.
Hey,
Nice suit,
hey,
bro."
nice.
Nice.
But yeah, you're it's New Year's Eve in 1958. That's when the story begins. It's an opening cutscene, if you will.
Hmm.
And you're walking along, minding your own business through the tunnels of Rapture. You got your little sister with you. She's chilling. She's harvesting some Adam with a big old long needle. She's sticking it in a dead body and then harvesting the drugs out of it, basically. Then she gets up on your shoulder, or she runs off through this ballroom, and then you go and catch up with her or whatever. And then you hear screaming because she's being attacked. So then you're like, "Oh shit, not this again!" So you run down the hall.
Here we go again.
Then you run down the hall. You turn a corner, and then there's these three drug addicts. Basically, what they're called in the game is splicers. So
Splicers. I've been avoiding that term the entire podcast because I couldn't remember it.
But they're trying to kidnap her, and that's not cool. But they're trying to get the drugs out of her because basically little sisters have an atom slug in their stomach that produces the atom for them, and then they get that extracted and somehow. But that's like the atom ecosystem within Rapture. So you're Subject Delta, and I'll give, you know what? I'm feeling generous. I'm going to give a little backstory about him.
Hell yeah.
He's also, the person you play as is also called Johnny Topside. And Johnny Topside's backstory is, well, Topside obviously implies he's from the surface, which he is. And he's a deep sea diver who just kind of stumbles upon Rapture, all happenstance, I guess. And Rapture is rumored to be, I think, 500 miles off the coast of Reykjavik, Iceland.
Yep.
So cold ass water. I don't know what he's doing down there. But he just kind of stumbles upon Rapture. He goes and checks it out. He's like, "Hey, what's going on down here, you guys?" And of course, he gets imprisoned because Andrew Ryan thinks that he's a government spy.
Right.
He'd be paranoid like that.
He do be paranoid, though.
He has him imprisoned. He's thrown in jail. And then, because there's no ethics, he is experimented upon. He's given all these plasmids, as they're called in the game, all these power-ups. He's, being genetically manipulated and all this. And then eventually the Big Daddy program comes along and he's drafted into that. So Johnny Topside is no more. He's scrubbed from the papers and everything else. He's now Subject Delta, who is one of the first Big Daddies to successfully become genetically bonded to a little sister. Before that, they kind of had some problems getting this pair bond to work out quite well. So they get it to work with him. But the only problem is it works a little too well, so that whenever his little sister is killed or injured or something like that, he feels it too. So later on, you find out that the Big Daddies that you see all around the city in 1968 These are like later prototype Big Daddies that can be bonded to multiple little sisters and not just one. So
So
that's
they
who you
did
are.
it.
Yeah, they did it. They were successful. So you have to find some Adam, and then in the opening cutscene, I still haven't gotten to this. You're hypnotized. Somebody uses a hypnotized plasmid on you, which basically means you have to do whatever they say or something like that.
Right.
But and then Sophia Lamb appears, who is this who's a psychiatrist,
Psychologist,
psychologist, something like that.
Psychiatric.
She's a smart person who knows things about human brains. Okay,
We
leave
made
at
it.
that.
God
We did.
damn. It was a journey, but we did it.
But her backstory is actually pretty interesting too. She was on the ground in Hiroshima when the atomic bomb was dropped. So I don't know how she survived that, but she was in the area or something like that. And then she goes over there and tries to do counseling because obviously, your city just got blown up. You're probably pretty.
How do you feel about that?
How do you feel about that? Tell me
Hey,
how
we
you feel.
blew up your city. What's up? Are we good?
What's up?
What's up?
But after that, she kind of sees the horrors of an atomic bomb firsthand, and she's like, "I don't want this to happen in America, in New York City, or anything like that. I need to get out of here." So eventually, Andrew Ryan invites her down to the city because a lot of the city's inhabitants are dealing with, side effects from being underwater all the time. They don't see the sun anymore. I get pretty depressed. I don't know about you.
Turns out that's an actual medical condition.
Yeah, it's called seasonal affective disorder, and it fucking sucks.
Yep.
I think a lot of us are experiencing that right now.
Oh,
Yeah, I saw the sun today. It was great.
Pretty good.
But in Rapture, you don't get to see the sun. So that's
I
Sophia
have
Lamb's.
light mode on for all of my shit on my computer. Is that similar to going outside?
No, your eyes are so red, and we can tell
Okay.
people that now.
Yeah, that's fair.
What you been doing over there, huh? No, there's a.
Was that a joke about cigarettes?
Yeah, jazz cigarettes.
We gotta watch visual humor for our listening friends.
But that's Sophia Lamb's backstory. I think I hit it pretty well. Eventually, she gets down to Rapture to help out the people, and she ends up manipulating them, which is
She goes mad with power.
Goes mad with power. She's
which
the
is
one
like
that.
one of the base themes of the game.
Oh yeah, big time. There's the kind of thing where she feels the power vacuum after Andrew Ryan's, dead. You whacked him with a golf club, right, in the first game. She comes in to fill the void. She's like, all right, you know what? This whole capitalism thing didn't work out so well. Let's collectivist.
Let's try a dictatorship. How about that?
Let's try the polar opposite.
How do you guys feel about some of that?
Okay, so anyways, the splicers you see, they try to take your little sister away, and you get pissed. You punch them down. You drill them with your hand drill, which is pretty cool. Just impale them, basically.
Yep.
So if you're here for the gore, there's plenty of that in this game. Let me tell you. But then they're all dead, and you get hypnotized, and then Sophia Lamb appears, and she's like, "Hey, that's not your kid, pal."
Hey, that's not your friend, buddy.
I'm not your buddy, friend.
I'm not your guy, man.
I'm not your man, buddy.
Guys, we can't do this all day.
No.
Michael, you took it too far. I'm just kidding.
But Sophia Lamb has hypnotized you, and you get a gun. It's a German Luger artillery model, if you must know, which is kind of funny because it's a World War II pistol. What's it doing down in the city in 1958? I don't know. But you place the gun to your head, and then she says, "Okay, pull the trigger," and you do. You're dead, kaput. That's it.
Wow,
that's the whole game.
That's it. But what if I told you that's not the whole game?
I'd believe you because it's like so short. If it were,
it's not the end of the game. You reawaken 8 years, 10 years after the fact. You've been resurrected by the little sisters under control of your little sister, your daughter, for all intents and purposes, Eleanor.
If I had to take a guess, I'd say that if you were going to heal from a bullet wound to the head, it would take roughly 8 to 10 years.
Yeah, it probably would. you don't recover from that very easy. Let's just say it that.
Right.
So it's after this time when you wake up, you're like, ow, I have a headache. No, he doesn't really say it. I'm kidding. The scientist.
I just love the idea of a Big Daddy, like his actual voice being like, "Ooh, ouch! Ooh, I got a headache."
Owie! Sophia!
Okay, so for those of you who don't know what a Big Daddy looks like, they're 7 foot tall. They're basically wearing diving suits, and I guess they're like 300 pounds or something like that.
They're more like 400, 500
They're big, beefy
pounds.
guys.
Yeah.
Okay.
Guys, I think I have the ability to like show pictures now.
Okay, you want to
Well, to
hit
some
that
of
up?
our audience,
It might take me a minute, but yeah,
Okay.
keep going.
Well, I'll keep going. Pull up an Alpha Series Big Daddy because I think those are the coolest ones, and that's who you
I'll
play
put it on
as.
the screen. We won't talk about it, but I'll show it for people who are watching. This is your incentive to watch.
Tune in, turn on, and drop out. Stay in school though. So the scientist Bridget Tenenbaum, who is, you might recognize that name from the first game. Congrats on you if you do. She informs Delta that he will die unless he finds Eleanor due to their pair bond, like I described before.
Right.
So with the help of Eleanor and a fine southern gentleman known as Augustus Sinclair, they they try to make their way to Eleanor and Sophia Lamb's stronghold in Fontaine Futuristic, which is a business. So that's the primary goal. You got to get back to your daughter. So face value, that's what it is.
Isn't Fontaine? I remember you talking about him in the first podcast.
Yeah, he's a dick.
guy. It's a dude, right? Yeah.
He's the guy that double crosses you after you kill Andrew Ryan.
Oh, Atlas.
Yeah, Atlas and Frank
Atlas
Fontaine are the same people.
Okay.
Yep.
Big Daddy?
Nope, that's not a Big Daddy. That's Adam Sandler.
Big
There
Daddy.
you go, Big Daddy. Nice visual pun there.
Thanks.
But so you got to go through the city. You hop on a train, but it's not really, it's not a train that I get excited about. It's just called the Atlantic Express. It's basically a submarine on rails. I don't care about that. That's not a real train. But you encounter Lamb's family. They're called the Rapture family. Remember what I said before about we're just one big family here at Acme Company? Where do you think I'm going with that? It's all about the family, okay? So there's a couple people that you encountered. There's first Grace Holloway, who's like a jazz singer, and she lives in Popper's Drop, which is like kind of this low, it's like Skid Row in LA. It's very low class, kind of homeless people, almost homeless people that are just scraping to get by. And I mean, that's going to happen in a capitalist society, just by nature of the very system itself. You're going to have the haves and the have-nots, just going to pan out like that.
Yep.
And you get the choice to either kill them or spare them. And that's one of the first decision points in the game, outside of like the whole harvest or save dilemma in the first game with the little sisters. So that's kind of like reflected in this game too, where you have all these people that would have wronged you in some way. I'm not sure how Grace Holloway has wronged you. She sends, she tries to kill you in that level. So, I mean, she sends a whole bunch of spices at you. That's pretty wrong. Okay. Killing people's bad. And then you get the choice to like, you can either kill her and take your revenge, or you can be like, you know what? I'm going to turn the other cheek. And of course, you know me, I'm a good boy. So I spare everyone.
Of course you are.
And then there's the level of what comes after Popper's Drop. There's anyway, you meet a journalist called Stanley Poole. And he's like an inside man in the Rapture family, and he's reporting all this stuff about him, like, oh, they go crazy and they do parties and all this, and he's putting it in the newspapers. But he's actually just working for Andrew Ryan to get the inside details, and then eventually that leads to Sophia Lamb getting arrested because he publishes all this salacious information, and that eventually leads to her getting locked up. So that's a level. That's one person you get a little revenge or forgiveness on. And he's the guy you really like, damn it, I wish I could, but I'm gonna be a good boy this time around. I'm gonna let you live. But next time around, you're dead. Okay.
I'm gonna be a good boy. I'm not gonna fuck you up. But if I replay this and I do a more malicious route, I'm gonna fuck you up.
I forget how you kill him too. I think it's a drill to the chest area.
I also thought
Nice.
it was some sort of a power tool.
Yeah, it's a drill.
Yeah.
It's actually Tim Taylor in the diving suit. See, it's an
Mhm.
episode of Home Improvement that went a little
Bam, bam,
wrong.
bam, 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 bam.
More power.
Guys, we've lost grip.
Anyways, the third person you get the opportunity to either kill or save is a scientist working in Rapture. His name is Gil Alexander,
Mm.
and he's part of this project by Sophia Lamb to create the first utopian, which is this person who embodies all of the goodness in Rapture via genetic code. So that means that's slang for Adam, I guess. That which is like the drug we mentioned before that gives you power ups. But they basically he or she gives him a whole bunch of Adam, like a ton of it, and that mutates him. So when you find him, he's gone completely insane, and he's the one that's running Fontaine Futuristics at this point. And you find him in this sea life tank. He's like this slug kind of sea serpent looking thing. It's not too clear. I don't want to see it, to be honest. But he flies around in these security bots, and he's just wandering around the halls of Fontaine Futuristics, zapping the hell out of everyone. And then he says, "You're fired!" and then laughs maniacally, like, "Ah!" Completely lost his marbles. So you might think
It
that
seems like he's got it all together to me.
sure, he seems great.
Yeah.
Great boss. I'd love to work for him. But you find him and he's in the tank, and he's like, before he takes all this Adam, he leaves like little audio messages like, "Hey, when you find me, I'm probably going to be completely gone.
I'll be dead. I'll be out of it.
I'll be out of it. So I want you to kill me."
Right.
But here's the trick though. If you do kill him, that counts as like a negative thing to the story. So I don't know. Do you
Don't
really
like
want to
that.
live like that? It's a tricky
Because
thing.
you want to do a 100% good boy route where you
Right.
get like candy at the end.
Sure, something like that. You get the really tearjerker ending, which I'll get to in a minute.
Because if you do all good boy choices, you get the good boy ending. But if you even make one bad boy choice, you get the middle ending, right?
And then if you do all the bad boy choices, you get the bad boy ending, which is not nice.
I guess the middle ending is the like
bad.
true ending,
There's
right?
There's no true ending. How about that? It's all canon.
All right, that's bullshit,
okay.
but sure.
I don't know. Call Ken Levine. We'll go.
Give me his number. I'll go head to head.
I don't have it.
I'll bring him on the podcast.
I'll be like, listen. So which ending is canon? Can you just tell us?
Hey, can you tell us when's Bioshock 4 coming?
Hopefully it's soon. I've been keeping
I
up on it.
know the last one was Infinite, and you're like, it's never gonna end, but
Infinite plus one.
I sure would like, because they made like the Xbox One, and then they made the Xbox 360, and then they were like, all right, no more. But then they made the Xbox Series X, and it's like they always come up with something else.
And they said Sulfur X, and then I said,
But-
oh no, not Algebra Class.
Bioshock 4? We're Bioshock 4 so we can keep podcast going. So we're gonna
What if they did
petition.
Bioshock Imaginary, like an imaginary number?
So like the little I.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's basically a Times New Roman I, but italic.
I took algebra. It's no big deal.
I took a pre-calc and wanted to not ever do that again, so I didn't. I
Fair.
chose no. Where was I? Where did I leave off? So you do finally make it to Fontaine Futuristics, where Eleanor should be held. She's not there, so you move to the Persephone prison, which is like final level in the game. So spoiler alert there. Basically, I should have given a big old spoiler alert at the beginning of this.
Listen, this game is like
11
almost
years
10
old?
years old, 11 years old. Whew, we're old, guys. So yeah, if you haven't played it by now, I'm sorry, but this is kind of what we're all up in right now, and we're on a network now, so we get to do what we want.
So you arrive at Persephone, right? You see Eleanor, she's behind some glass, and then Sophia Lamb's like, you know what? You got a little too close. So she takes a pillow and smothers Eleanor long enough to stop her heart.
Mm.
That really hurts in a lot of ways, both emotionally and physically, for a big daddy. Um, but though Eleanor survives, Delta is beginning to slowly die on the inside and on the outside, like so many of us are. But he can't reestablish the bond because once the little sister's heart stops, I mean that's it. You're a big daddy. You're an Alpha Series big daddy. You're done. Um, so to get around this is not where the game ends. Eleanor transforms herself into a big sister, which is another bad guy in the game, which is basically
Oh,
big sisters are grown up little sisters.
Hmm.
Duh, right?
right.
But as a side effect of their like having an atom slug in their tummy and absorbing all these powers from people's DNA and stuff,
Mhm.
they've kind of become super people. They become like these real enemy, and they're really agile. They're basically like big daddies, except they can jump around and hurt you more.
Mess you up.
They can
Yeah.
mess you up. Um, so Eleanor transforms herself into a big sister, and then Delta is freed. He's back. He's back alive, and he's like, "All right, I can do whatever I want." But he's still got that, he's got that pain in his heart because his little sister
Hmm.
died. And together, they're heading to an escape pod. It's this nest egg that remember good old Sinclair has arranged to get the heck out of Rapture because his big plan is he's going to take all these genetic secrets, all this atom, all these superpowers, and he's going to take it to the surface and he's going to make a buck or two or
Hmm.
three or a million. That's his big plan,
Exactly.
which I would probably do too, honestly, if I was down there. Um, but the two find that Lamb has converted Sinclair into a big daddy, and that's like this is the end game, you guys. This is like the story's almost done, and then this guy who's been guiding you through all these scenarios and all these levels in the game, he's now a big daddy and he wants to kill you.
Yeah.
But all through it, he's like, "I don't want to do this, son.
I
Please
don't
kill
want to
me."
do this to you, son.
And that's like a boss battle, and it hurts. It hurts. You're forced to kill him.
Yeah.
Uh, but eventually, Eleanor and Subject Delta make it to the escape pod. But Delta, as I said before, is mortally wounded by a bomb this time. A bomb this time. Not
Mm.
mortally wounded just because he broke his little sister bond.
Is he mortally wounded or like quote unquote mortally wounded?
Well, you got the little sister bond thing being broken. So that's
Or
Yeah.
third option, unless he
unless
wasn't mortally wounded, he was wounded by a mortar.
no, that's
Mm.
mortarly.
Ah.
That didn't make
See,
any sense.
we're also an educational podcast. We really got
Yeah.
I was mortally wounded. No,
I was morally wounded.
Mm.
yeah, he will be at the end of this game, unfortunately.
Then take us there, buddy.
Okay, so the game's ending after Delta's mortally wounded, after you, the player character, has been bombed. They take the game's ending. It's you get 3. So it depends on how you interact with the little sisters and the fates of the members of this Rapture family. Those 3 people that I talked about before.
Mm-hmm.
Eleanor can save her mother, Sophia Lamb, or leave her to drown, depending on how you've acted. So if Delta rescued all the little sisters, he will die in Eleanor's arms, and the weather will be sunny and clear when they get to the surface.
Oh.
And she will absorb his personality and his memories and leave Rapture, and the little sisters will change the world for the better. That's a real tearjerker moment when she takes the syringe, puts it into Delta's heart, and pulls out, like, in essence, him.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mhm.
the voiceover is like, no matter where I am in the world, you'll always be with me on my shoulder. And I'm just like, I'm gonna try not to cry, but that really hurt me. So
Yeah.
but that's a good ending. That's a good ending that I got because I'm a good
So
boy.
the good ending makes you cry. Okay.
Okay, check.
Mm-hmm.
So here's a bad ending. If Delta harvested all the little sisters, then the weather is stormy, and Eleanor will extract Delta's atom and become bent on world dominance. So that's
Okay.
not so good.
Slight difference.
Yeah, not so good.
Not so good.
The neutral, what did you call it before? The neutral good ending?
The middle ending.
The
The
middle
middle,
one.
the Cincinnati of endings.
All right, come on. Gonna disgrace my home city like that. The Cincinnati ending, as we'll call it, is between rescuing and harvesting the little sisters, which gives the player a choice. Eleanor can absorb his atom, or Delta can stop her and die. In which case, Eleanor will mourn his death and choose to make her own way in life. And this is kind of where the strongest of souls cried. So in conclusion, I'm going to get to the conclusion bit. What a fucking ride, you know? Name me one other game packed with so much symbolism and meaning and ideologies and all this other good stuff. Frankly, I don't think you can. Name me one game.
Control.
Okay.
God of
all right,
War.
Okay. It's pretty rare for a game to come along that is this good, that is this packed with meaning.
Minecraft.
Counter-Strike.
Call of Duty?
Overwatch.
World of Warcraft.
All right, Mike.
No, but for real though.
For real now.
What about that one that the guy made while like he was a game programmer who made a game while his like kid was going through leukemia, and it was like On the Shoulder of Dragons or something like that.
Oof.
That one's rough.
Yeah. There's other games out there, but they're few and far between.
I will say, there's one game that emotionally gut punched me called Brothers: A Tale of Two Sons.
Another great game.
Yeah. Yeah, that one sounds rough.
Yeah. But this is a time when many other game studios would shy away from making a sequel to an already solid game.
Yeah.
Like Bioshock was perfect. It was a perfect story arc, went up and down, whatever. And then 2K Marin comes in and Irrational Games, and they're like, we're gonna knock it out of the park. Check this out, y'all. Hold my content developer keyboard something or other. What do developers say when they're about to do something silly? Anyone know?
Hold my trackpad. Next.
Just promise me you won't fire me in the next 24 hours.
Fair.
Yeah, I'm about to do something awesome. Don't fire me in the next 24 hours. Sounds about right.
Hold my keyboard, losers. But this is what a sequel should look like, really. And I don't think that Bioshock needed a sequel, frankly. But, here's this great game that came out, 2 years later, and it knocked it out of the park. Like, it refined on so much of what Bioshock 1 built that it's like, it's even more perfect. I don't know how you went over and above 100%, but you did. Great game all the way around. And I think the entire Bioshock franchise is well worth a playing. And you'll get your money's worth as far as gameplay goes, and you'll get a lifetime of things to think about. Like, do we exact revenge on our others who have wronged us? Or do we remember that an eye for an eye leaves the whole world blind? Do we follow our ideologies to a bitter end? Or do we observe the need for nuance and walking a mile in the other side's shoes? How far are you willing to go to accomplish your goals? And is there really such a thing as good or evil? Or are there just different philosophies with different outcomes? Life is indeed richer when we have such a great game to show us these things and ask us those questions that are maybe a little hard to hear the answers to. And if you're not here for all that, that's okay too. Because holy shit, is it satisfying to thwack someone with a drill arm. In the end, I want to thank you for a year of entertaining this. And I think that you should entertain this game called Bioshock 2.
Hell yeah.
Nice.
That's all
Well
I got.
done. As always, well done, Nick. Very
Thanks.
informative. Before we cut to what will be our promotional section within the audio version of this podcast and eventually become a visual promotionary part, as well as the movie review with Nick leading up to his guest spot on our podcast. Different Nick, not this Nick, different Nick.
Yep.
His guest star on this podcast come the end of this month. Let's talk a little bit about the Scene Snobs network that we are now a part of. So as stated before, and obviously because you're watching now, we are now a part of the Scene Snobs network, which is a network of podcasts that all come together, work together, and produce content for you guys, as well as do a bunch of charity events that we will also be now partaking in. One of those will be long since past when this episode airs, but we will be doing that. So that's something to kind of look forward to. But there are a bunch of other amazing podcasts on the Scene Snob Network that you guys can check out. If you guys go to www. I think it's thescenesnobs.com. Let me double check that just to make sure that I got it right. The Scene Snobs. I should have checked
Scene snobs
this.
or screen snobs?
I believe you're right.
.com. Yes, thescenesnobs.com. You guys can check out all the great podcasts there. I'm going to run you through a list real quick of all of the shows that are currently on the network that you guys can check out. They have the Scene Snobs podcast, the BTB podcast, the Sports Snobs podcast, the Guapo Show, Scene Snobs Reviews, Scene Snobs Interviews, the Showcase, Pulling Focus podcast, Jeff Dwowskin presents Crossing the Streams, the Three Geeks podcast, the PBD cast, the Fandom Effect, Matt Talk, the Ear Hustling podcast, Carpool Shenanigans. I believe the other two are Talking Upstream and Twitching Upstream, both products of our good friends of the show, Some Nobodies.
Mm-hmm.
We are now on the same network as them, which is really awesome. And we thank them so much for introducing us to the CEO of this network and getting us involved in it. It's super awesome. That's enough vamping. Let's go to the promotion section, and we'll be right back after that for the quick this. See you in a second.
Quick.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, fans, listeners of Entertain This. This is Nick here back again with another review coming from Sundance Film Festival 2021. The next film I have here to present for you guys and offer you all my quick little review on is a little film called A Glitch in the Matrix. And this film comes to us from director-writer Rodney Asher, who brought us such films as Room 237, which is a documentary on The Shining, as well as The Nightmare, which is a documentary on sleep paralysis, which messed me up for a number of nights. So tread lightly when you go into that movie. And A Glitch in the Matrix is no exception to the rule when it comes to Rodney Asher's previous films, in the sense that this is a documentary that presents a very harrowing and puzzling topic and brings it out to the front and lets people that subscribe to this belief really kind of do their part in, I guess, advocating and or convincing us that this is a viable worldview, so to speak. Simulation theory, you know, the idea that we are living in a simulation, that reality is not what it seems, that, you know, we need to wake up and see that, you know, all we are in many regards is ones and zeros, programming code, if you will, in a larger sort of scheme. Basically, we're being puppeted by a supreme being or computer or calculated system that has us on predetermined tread lines that take us in one direction without deviating in other areas, and where in our current reality and things that we see in a day in and day out basis leads us to believe that this is something that could be real. And that is what a lot of the testimonial people in this film try to do. They kind of give sort of context of where they started from, and where the idea of simulation theory came to them, like how they came to that line of thinking, what changed in their life to make them think that this is all a simulation, and sort of some of the more anecdotal evidence in their own personal lives that lead them to believe that that's what's going on here. Not only are those testimonials from people that we actually don't see, we only see their sort of like avatars, basically. So think sort of VR, you know, Ready Player One sort of type of characters. And we get some moments from doctors and scientists talking about, you know, the probability of this being a thing, right? Like, are we all living in sort of a bubble, right? Are we living in the Matrix, right? You know, Neo and Morpheus and all those characters. It is harrowing. It is puzzling, baffling. I laughed at a number of moments because it truly is a bonkers concept. It kind of breaks your brain a little bit. But I also found myself feeling deeply sorrowful for the people that really subscribe to this belief, because it seemed to me, and this is my opinion, that these are very troubled individuals, that this particular worldview offers no real hope or purpose, and it kind of devalues things to a very minimal level, where it's almost like, what's the point of doing anything if this is how life is? And it just feels very sad and kind of pessimistic and very just, upsetting in some respects. So I felt bad for some of the people that were really on the whole simulation theory train. There's a bunch of really great visual guides to kind of illustrate a lot of what these people are talking about. So it's easier for you to digest this kind of concept. And there is an especially troubling testimonial with a guy and Rodney Asher. And this guy is basically, super obsessed with the Matrix film, walks around in a black trench coat and black sunglasses, listening to the Matrix soundtrack constantly. And he basically starts to feel like he is Neo and that he is living in a simulation, and he needs to wake up and wake other people up. And a lot of the people around him are just, NPCs, AI, like just, not real, basically, ones and zeros, that he's living in a program. And what follows is a very chilling story with a lot of twists and turns that I could not believe was an actual true story. And I think you guys will really glom onto this, and because it's a fascinating watch. It's super fun. It's pretty quick. It's a brisk, like hour 30, hour 40 minutes. Not too hard to get through. Super, super interesting documentary. I was a big fan of this one. I would absolutely recommend it. It is streaming, so you can rent it on most VOD platforms. And I foresee a potential episode of Entertain This with the rest of the gang, where we actually kind of dig into the whole idea of simulation theory. We all watch the film, and then we kind of come together and talk about the ins and outs of it. So if you guys would like that, please let Alex and the rest of the gang know, and we'll see about getting that down the pipeline. So that was my review for A Glitch in the Matrix. We would love to know what you guys think about the film if you check it out, and I'll see you guys next episode with another review.
Hey, that wasn't very long, was it, guys? We're back.
No.
Figuring out, so it's so weird on your guys' end. Don't tell us. We'll fix it. We'll fix us too. So this week, for my quick this, let's talk about how this works, because some people that see their first episode.
We'll cut this out.
No, this is good.
We'll cut this out.
All right, fine. It's been a year. People could use a revive on what it all is. So basically, how our show works is, if you made it this far, you probably figured it out, but we rotate who kind of leads the conversation every week, talking about something in entertainment. This week, we happened to have Nick hosting, and Nick took us into a deep dive into Bioshock 2. He looks scared. Are you okay? Are you all right?
That's fun. Yeah, I'm good.
Okay. So basically, the way that it works from this point on is whoever hosted the week prior, which if you are a fan of the podcast and have listened for a long time, you know that was me, and that we talked about Franz Kafka's Metamorphosis last week. Yes, you guys remember, you were here.
I was there.
You guys were here. So I am going to do the quick this week. What a quick this is it's a 5-minute, strict 5-minute version of the podcast where we talk about something that maybe we don't think will make up an hour's worth of content, but we still want to talk about and kind of share with you guys. And I have something, kind of throwing it back to that very first episode again, that I'm pissed off about.
Uh-oh.
So it's going to be a quick this rant.
All right.
If we could get a timer, one of you boys could pull up a timer for me, and we're going to start doing this a legit 5-minute quick this.
Okay, I'll make a big old Okay, Michael's got it.
There you go. Just
Everyone's
show it on screen. That'll work.
It goes to 5 minutes. No.
Okay, ready? 3, 2, and Go. So what I'm going to be talking about today is a Marvel character that a lot of people don't know about, and who, as many have, Sony completely and totally effed up. So let's talk about that today.
Vision.
Have you guys not Vision? Not Vision. Vision, they're doing okay with Vision. But with WandaVision coming out and this new sort of focus on mutants, we're going to talk about a mutant that is pretty famous in the comic books, and that is the mutant Darwin. Are you guys familiar at all with Darwin?
I think I read his Wikipedia page a long time ago, but it's been a bit.
Michael, you probably did, because we used to play Mutants and Masterminds, and a guy
You're
who we
right.
played Mutants and Masterminds with copied this character to a T and then claimed it as his own idea. And we looked it
That's
up
right.
and proved him wrong.
Yep.
So what Darwin's ability is, his mutant power, is that his body uncontrollably adapts to everything that happens to him. So if he is inside of a burning building, his body uncontrollably will adapt to something that is fireproof. Or if he's like drowning, his body will immediately turn into something that doesn't require oxygen. An example that to kind of tell you guys is, he once faced a superhuman who killed everything that was alive. So his body adapted and turned itself into a sponge, because technically a sponge isn't a living creature, but it's still an organism that is living. In that way, he was able to survive it.
Interesting.
Okay, all right.
Let's delve even deeper into Darwin's powers and talk about how one time he was going up against literal death. Like Death, the Grim Reaper, a female character in the Marvel Universe. The touch of death killed people. Darwin's powers are so crazy that he touched death and his body adapted to it, turning him into death. Took death's powers away from death. His body adapted to the point where he became the god of death. And in that way was able to defeat the powers of death and not die from this. So that brings up how, of course, Sony, as it so often does, fucks it up.
Way to go, Sony.
So Darwin shows up in X-Men First Class. He is portrayed by a man named Eddie Gathegi. I think I pronounced that right. He was a Kenyan American actor rather than an Afro-Hispanic, which he had been in the comic books, which it's like great representation. We love that. So he demonstrated his abilities, such as growing gills when underwater and developing armor plating to withstand physical beatings. So like already it's like he can adapt to anything. He will never die. He was like the captain of this young X-Men's team. So Professor X and Magneto first encounter him as a taxi cab driver when he takes a somewhat fatherly and protective role with the other mutants, except with Alex Summers. So he like becomes this like father figure for all of the mutants in X-Men First Class, which of course is showing all of the origin stories for all of the X-Men, in case you didn't know that. In a short conflict between Xavier's mutants and the Hellfire Club, Sebastian Shaw forces an energy blast down into Darwin's throat. So this is within like the first 10-ish, or not 10, but like within the first act of this movie. He forces an energy blast down his throat, and it causes him to internally explode and die.
Oh, well, I see the problem there.
In the first act, Darwin dies.
Okay.
After like proving to be this like fatherly figure within the X-Men, like that everyone looks up to, they kill him off because a super villain forces an energy blast down his throat and he dies. Based on the fact that he does not rematerialize, nor does he make another appearance in the series, it can be assumed that he has perished, of course. Darwin's death has been met with derision from fans and from critics due to many feeling that his power should have made him immune to Shaw's energy, combined with the fact that his death was an example of the black guy dies first trope. So how bad did Sony fuck this up? Sorry, we hit 5 minutes, but this is in conclusion. I'm done now.
Wrap it
So
up.
how bad does Sony fuck it up? Let's talk about that. They somehow killed off the black guy first, even though he was an unkillable character. Way to go, Sony. You messed it up again. And that's my quick this.
Okay.
I love a good little superhero rant from you.
Yeah, of course. I have done many of them.
You like them superheroes, don't you?
I really do. I'm a comic book nerd. I mean, you can tell from my background, like comic book boxes all the way down, comics laying right there, Spider-Man picture somewhere over in that direction. There it is.
That's not even touching the Funko Pop collection. That
We're not going to talk about it. We're not going to talk about it.
All right.
We're not going to talk about it. Thanks, though.
The what
Thanks about that.
Yeah.
But no, we're not going to be doing that. Hey, guys. For those of you first tuning in to entertain this, if this is your first time listening, watching, due to the Scene Snobs Network, go ahead and head over to the Scene Snobs page on Facebook, hit them with a like, visit their website, check out the other amazing shows on this network that we are now signed to. If you guys want to get in contact with us at all, there are a couple ways that you can do that. Number one, you can find us on Twitter. We are entertain_this. On Instagram, we are entertain this podcast. But if you really want to get in the thick of it, you can go to our website. That's www.entertainthis.net. There you can find links to all of our social medias as well as our Discord page, and other things of that nature. Now let's do a call to action. Hey guys, if there's anything out there that you guys want to see us cover, if there is something that you want us to entertain and then do an episode of the podcast on, please reach out to us at entertainthispodcast@gmail.com. We love to take your suggestions, love to listen to what you guys want to see and want to hear, and we will for sure take those into consideration. Maybe you'll introduce something new to us. So entertain us so we can entertain you, and you can entertain this. Thank you so much for watching or listening.
Hey, it applies now. Yeah.
We did it.
That's a callback, baby. If you didn't get it, you weren't here for it. See you next week. Bye.
Bye.